All right, Mr. Johnson, you can call your first witness.
Your Honor, the defense calls Shanda Vander Ark.
All right, Ms. Vander Ark, if you can come around here, please.
Stand in front of that chair, raise your right hand, please.
Raise your right hand, please. In this matter now pending, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, yes, sir.
All right, you can put your hand down, grab a seat. Please state your name for the record, spelling your first name and last name.
Shanda, S-H-A-N-D-A, Vander Ark, V-A-N-D-E-R, space, capital A-R-K.
Thank you, Ms. Vander Ark. You're being called to testify in your own cases. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
And to do that, you have to make sure that everyone can understand you, correct?
Yes, sir.
With you, and knowing you as I do, I don't think volume's going to be a problem with you.
Probably not, sir.
Talking fast, maybe.
Yes, sir, it might.
Okay, so this is, are you nervous?
Yes, sir.
This is stressful?
Yes, sir, very.
So you're going to be, questions going to be thrown at you fast and furious. You've seen how trials work, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And under those circumstances, you may speed up again as I do.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You may be reminded from time to time to slow down just a little bit. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Let's make sure everyone understands you. You've been sitting through this trial since the beginning, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were arrested for these offenses alleged back when?
July 7th of 2022.
Okay. So you've been living with this thing for more than, what, 18 months?
17 months, yes, sir.
17 months. So you know what we're talking about, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you understand the allegations against you?
Yes, sir.
And that it also helps that you have a legal background, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The things they said about how well you did in school and all those things, were those all true?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't want you sitting there and regaling this, but the things about cum laude and going to law school, all that stuff is true.
It was magna cum laude, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let's go back to the very beginning. When did Timothy come to your care?
May of 2021.
Prior to that, who had physical and legal custody of Timothy?
My ex-husband.
Okay. And when he sent, and how did it happen that you ended up with custody then?
My ex reached out to me, stating that Timothy he could no longer handle him, that he was pushing his buttons, and that he needed to send him to live with me.
Okay. And you agreed to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Had you ever lived with Timothy during his...
When he was younger, yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So you agreed to accept him into your home?
Yes, sir.
And who was living in your home at the time?
Myself, my husband, Adam, Paul Ferguson, and then my little man, G.
G. Okay, that's what we've been calling G, correct?
It's really hard to do, yes, sir.
Okay, just do the best you can. Okay, so they're all living in your home, and then Timothy joins you, correct?
Yes, sir.
When Timothy's joining you, did your ex-husband ever make any effort to transfer legal custody to you?
We discussed it, but he never did actually sign anything, no, sir.
Okay. And without legal custody, how do you get Timothy into school?
You can't.
And without legal custody, how do you get medical treatment for Timothy?
You can't.
Did your husband at least send I assume he had medical insurance for Timothy. Did he send that?
He did not send me. I requested his medical card, his insurance card, and he never sent it to me.
Now, you heard the testimony that Timothy saw the doctor in 2019. Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
That was a year before you received him?
2 years before I received him.
2 years before. So in the prior 2 years before you received him, as far as you know, based on what you heard here, your ex-husband never took him to the doctor?
As far as I know, yes, sir.
How do you know if he had medical insurance for this young man?
He told me he did.
Okay. But he never sent it to you?
No, sir.
Okay. What was your financial situation once Timothy arrived and your husband had a stroke?
After the stroke, we
Yes.
lost my husband's income, and it was paycheck to pay, not even paycheck to paycheck. Almost everything was paid late. I was struggling. I asked Paul for help with groceries sometimes because we were struggling.
Okay. And Paul was working full-time?
He was working part-time.
He's working at Applebee's?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he's working part-time, and so were you receiving any child support?
No,
So the entire financial burden was on you?
correct.
Could you have afforded daycare for any of your children?
Absolutely not, no.
And could you have afforded any extra expenses other than the ones that you were providing for?
No,
What type of expenses were you able to provide for this family?
just basic living expenses.
Rent,
Yes, sir.
utilities,
Yes, sir.
food?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that leads to the next question I have for you. You had monitors and cameras in your home, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the impression from the testimony I heard is that it was for the sole purpose of ensuring that Timothy could not get the food. Is that accurate?
No.
Why did you have all those monitors and cameras in your home?
When Timothy came to live with us, his stepmother informed me that they had motion sensors. They weren't as tech savvy as I was. I worked in tech before law school. I worked in tech support for several years. But they had motion sensors and she told me that she didn't sleep at night. She only slept when he was at school because he was into everything. And so because my younger child, he used to, when he was about 2, he would take all his clothes off. So we started putting a camera in his room. And then once we moved to the Marshall Road location, it was bi-level. My husband was born with a disability. My husband was wheelchair bound. So we had an extra wheelchair that we kept on the upper level. That's where the master bedroom was. But that way, if little man, if G was down in his bedroom, my husband could talk to him through the camera and have him come up. It was much easier. My husband could crawl down the steps before the stroke, but we didn't want him to have to crawl up and down those steps.
Okay. And again, let's go back to the issue of food. Was food the only reason why you felt you had to monitor Timothy, or were there other issues?
There were plenty of issues, sir.
So, well, first of all, we've heard some testimony as to Timothy's special needs. What were his special needs?
He was on the autism spectrum, but he was completely verbal, and he was grade level in school. He was not behind in school at all. He was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. He was diagnosed as bipolar and sensory processing disorder. I heard Paul mention physical disability. He didn't have any. Now, Timothy, when he first got there, said he had a physical disability, and I asked his stepmom about it to make sure, and she said no, he was not coordinated at all. The first summer that he lived with us, my youngest was playing baseball, and Timothy actually mentioned, because we had planned to put him in public high school, I'm going to try out for the baseball team, and I didn't say anything to him, but I remember thinking, sorry, sweetie, there's no way, you don't have the coordination for that.
All right. And he liked to take, well, you tell me, did he like to take things apart?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Can you give some examples?
He took batteries apart, he took toys apart, my youngest son's toys. If he could get a hold of anything from Paul's room, he would take, like, mostly it was Legos. Paul still had Legos. He, at one point, messed with our water heater.
What do you mean?
He actually turned the gas off to the water heater. He knocked out the pilot light and then turned the gas off as well at different points.
Okay. Did you have any concerns as to whether or not his predilections, his desire to get into things, might be a safety hazard for either him or somebody else in the home?
I was extremely concerned about that, yes, sir.
So it was your desire to, was it just your desire to monitor Timothy, or did you also have a younger child in the home that you wanted to monitor?
We had both.
Okay. Was it, well, who did you want to monitor? One or the other, or both?
Both.
Okay. All right. So you set up these video and audio cameras, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And alarms on the doors?
Those didn't get installed until about 3 weeks before he passed away.
Okay. And motion sensors?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He got around the motion sensors multiple times.
Were you able to stay home and personally monitor your children?
No, I had to work full time.
Okay. How were you able to get Timothy into school?
No, we were not. We tried to enroll him in Mona Shores High School, and Mona Shores told me that my ex I guess Timothy had damaged a Chromebook in Oklahoma, and because my ex owed money on that, they would not send his records up to us. So we were not able to enroll him. So I found online homeschool curriculum that I had to monitor, but I enrolled him in that.
Let me make sure I understand. Was it your original intention to put Timothy into public schools?
Yes, sir. We started the process. I filled out the paperwork. Because of my work schedule, I couldn't actually take paperwork to Mona Shores. My husband did that, Adam did that. But yes, we did try to get him enrolled.
Okay, and the youngest child, G, was he in public schools?
No, he was homeschooled.
What about Paul? Do you know if he was homeschooled or if he, when he got to you, was he still in school?
No, he had graduated high school.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now, you mentioned that you weren't able to stay at home and care for your children at home, in the home, as a stay-home parent. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what type of, I assume you're out working?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Explain to the jury the work that you did during the period of time that Timothy arrived in your home.
When he first arrived, I was still studying for the bar exam, so my husband was working full-time, and I was just doing, I trained dogs on the side, everything from basic obedience up through different types of service dogs for other people. And so I had a couple of dog training clients, but mostly I was studying for the bar exam. I also was an intern here in this courthouse at that
Pay a
time.
lot of money?
Oh, it was not paid at all, sir.
Okay.
But it was the week of the bar exam. My judge that I worked for here as a law clerk informed me of this position that was open in Waco County, and she knew that the judge referred me, and that's when I did the interview, and I started work, I think it was 2 days after I completed the bar exam.
Okay. Was that a paid position?
Yes, it was.
Was it lucrative enough where you didn't have to do any other work?
Well, with my husband's income, it was.
Okay. But your husband's income stopped when he got sick?
When he had the stroke, yes.
Okay. So at that point, was it enough income to provide for you and your family?
No.
Were you receiving any other outside incomes?
My older brother lives in the home that I still own in Oklahoma, and he paid rent to us.
Okay.
But it wasn't a lot. That went towards our house rent.
Child support?
No. My ex, one of the siblings was forgotten yesterday. There's 5 total. We talked about the 4 boys. I also have a daughter. She is now 19, but she stayed down with her dad.
Okay.
So we each had one, so there was no child support. And because of child support on the other 4 kids, I actually was still paying my ex child support. It was still being deducted from my check.
Okay. So you had that's another deduction from your income?
$1,000 a month, yes, sir.
Okay. So, were you also doing tutoring when you went to the judge who was paying you? Were you still tutoring or doing any other outside work?
Not at that. I was doing the dog training.
Okay. Let me ask you this. What time in the morning did you leave to go to work?
I usually left the house about 6:30.
And what time, on average, were you getting home?
About 6 o'clock.
Okay. So we're talking about 12 hours away from the home.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Those monitors, the video cameras in your home, you were able to view them while at work?
From my phone, occasionally, yes, sir.
Okay. But you were still working?
Yes, sir. I didn't view them at all until after the stroke. I mean, because my husband was there, or we had arrangements where my husband was off certain days of the week. Paul was off one day, specifically 1 day a week, so he took care of Gabriel and Timothy. And then the other 2 days that I needed care for Gabriel when my husband was working, he actually went to my in-laws' house down in West Olive.
May I approach the witness for just a moment, John?
You may.
Let's see. You have 3 children at home.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And my understanding is you faced other challenges personally in terms of your own personal health.
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. For instance, let's run down the list. You had insomnia.
Severe insomnia caused by attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Okay. And for those folks who get a great night's sleep every night, don't understand what insomnia does to your ability to function, can you explain to them what impact chronic insomnia has on a person?
It limits your ability to think clearly. Your energy level is greatly reduced. Takes a lot longer to process things. You forget things easier. It was much harder to function with so little sleep.
Okay. And you talked about your other personal disorders. Were you receiving medications for those?
I was for, I have severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder combined type. I also have sensory processing disorder and OCD. And then after my husband's stroke, as a result of my husband's stroke, because I viewed him, I wasn't in the room when he had the stroke, but I was there right afterwards. And so I developed post-traumatic stress disorder with disassociation from that. The only medication that I was on was for the ADHD.
Okay. And you had the service dogs in your presence too?
I had one service dog for me, yes, sir.
Okay. What sorts of interventions were available for Timothy's disorders?
When he came to us, he was on medication. They gave us a whole large gallon-sized Ziploc bag of medications for him. I could not refill them because I could not get him to the doctor. We were going to try to adjust his medication because when he came to live with us, when he took his medicine, he was a zombie. It was just horrific. And when Paul came to live with us, because Paul had only been there a year when Timothy moved up, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was on the same big bag of medication, and there were serious concerns that they just, instead of handling, especially my ex, he wanted to medicate them. But I never got that option because I couldn't take him to the doctor.
Okay. All right. There's been some allegation, there's been some implications, put it that way, that you tried to keep people from seeing Timothy, that you tried to keep him away from public view, that he didn't go to school, he didn't go to the doctor, etc. That he went outside, he was in the backyard. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes, sir.
If someone's outside in your backyard, are there trees or fences or other obstacles to keep the neighbors from looking over there and seeing who's out in your yard?
No, there was a clearing before. There was woods at the back of the lot, but there was a clearing, and at least the neighbors on each side, there were pretty sizable windows on the back of their homes. Mm-hmm. They weren't in I think the next door was a 2-level, but the one on one side was just a single level. It may have had a basement, I don't know. But there was big windows, and they could see into our backyard easily.
Okay. Was it ever your intention to keep people from seeing Timothy?
No, my mother-in-law saw him. They do rental home inspections, I guess the city of Norton Shores. Mm-hmm. I don't remember if it was late April or early May of 2022, but it was in that neighborhood. And so we'd had the inspection that day, and my mother-in-law happened to stop by that day. And I invited her in. We sat and talked, and Timothy wanted to come say hi, so he came up and said hi to her.
Okay. Now, you're a Muskegon County transplant, correct?
Yes, I'm not from around here.
So, and I'm assuming that your direct biological family, there's not a lot of them in this county?
There's no, I don't have, other than my children, I don't have any biological family here.
Okay. How far away are they?
My older brother is in Oklahoma City, and then I have 2 sisters that I have not talked to in over 20 years, and they live in Alabama, where I'm from.
Okay. So how often do those folks, your bio family, stop by and to see how sister's doing?
The last time I saw my older brother was when we went down to North Carolina for my oldest son's wedding in October of 2021, and then my brother and sister-in-law drove over from Oklahoma for the wedding as well. We FaceTimed a lot. We watched football games on FaceTime, but I didn't get to see them after we moved up here.
Okay. Do you have a lot of friends in the area that will come by, will stop by does it happen to be in the area, that sort of thing? They'll come by and visit your home?
Most of my friends were from work, and they actually, because I worked in Newaygo County, they lived in Newaygo or Oceana County, or even further. I don't know, I'm not from here, I don't know what county is next to Newaygo, east. But I know at least one person from work lived in, I think it's Big Rapids.
Yes.
So no, they didn't stop by because they were too far away.
Did you have a lot of time for social interactions at your home?
No, not at all.
And how about Paul? Did he have friends that he'd bring by, or?
No, he talked about people at work, but he never asked to bring anybody over.
Was he ever given any instructions? You can't have people in this house?
Absolutely not.
And what about the youngest child, G? Did he have any friends for sleepovers or anything like that?
We didn't have any friends over for, no. He played baseball. Because of me not being able to get out, he didn't get out a lot. I mean, I wish I could have gotten him out more. That's why we put him in baseball, so he could get around other kids more. I had been looking into homeschool co-ops, but with my schedule, I just couldn't do that.
Okay. What would you say was more impactful in terms of your, get Timothy out of the house? Was it your desire he not get out of the house, or your work requirements?
It was work requirements and his choice. There was, I want to say it was April, the weather was halfway decent. I guess people here were, there was kids down the street, there was teenagers playing basketball when I came home from the grocery store one weekend. And I stopped and rolled my window down and said, hey, I've got a 15-year-old at home. Can he come play with y'all? Even though I knew he wasn't coordinated, I thought he would enjoy it. And they said, yeah, sure, absolutely. And he did not want to go play.
Okay. Did he ever request to go play, and you denied him?
No, he never did. Actually, Paul, we had, Mom and Dad, my in-laws, got Timothy a bike for his 15th birthday. And Paul and we were on a cul-de-sac. And Paul had tried to teach him to ride the bike.
Okay.
I know they had a few sessions. I don't know how many.
Okay. So on those occasions, he'd be outside.
Oh yeah, he was out in front of the house in the cul-de-sac.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's talk about some of the things that have come up in this case. There were leg irons discovered in your home. Were you aware of those?
I was aware that Paul had them. You actually could look on my Amazon. Paul had the option to do payment on the Amazon as well as mine. And Paul had actually ordered those under his account.
Okay. You did not order the leg irons?
I did not, no.
Did you ever use them?
No, sir. No, I never instructed.
Let's be in specific. Did you ever use them with Timothy?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you ever notice any bruising on Timothy's wrists or legs that might be attributable to the use of leg irons?
No, sir. I never saw anything like that.
You heard Paul talk about plastic ties. What was that about?
I honestly don't remember.
Okay.
I don't know why we would order. I saw the ties. I don't remember ordering them. I don't know what happened there.
You're going to say I don't remember a lot, aren't you?
Unfortunately, yes, because of the dissociation.
Okay. Explain to the jury what that means.
Well, I guess there's different forms. Somebody told me this. I did not find out about the PTSD and the disassociation until about 7 months after my husband's stroke, even though it had been going on since the stroke.
I need to place an objection on the record, and I think we're going to have to excuse the jury.
Okay. We'll go ahead and excuse you back to the jury room.